guys, Redneck Computer Geek here. And just when you thought I had done the stupidest thing that anybody could do by building an MTD to go drag racing with a VariDrive, I surpassed it. I did figure out what the key to making an MTD go faster is. And it's here, in this box. I'll show you at the end of the video. But first, I want to show you all the hell that I went through in order to be able to bring you this video. So, the 5-second version to understand here is how a VariDrive works. This right here is a variable pulley that sits in the back of the system. Now, what happens is, and this is my menagerie of belts I managed to blow up in this whole fiasco. I blew up $140 worth of belts in order to go and prove all of this. So, one sits in on the bottom, as you can see, it changes the size based on how far it is pulled in. And that, in turn, affects the upper side. So, as your engine side pulls in, it causes the other side to expand, like so, and that causes it to go faster. With its own set of problems, of course. So we started off with the bug, and everybody loves the bug. But the bug was interesting. So we got to 16 miles per hour with the bug, with an engine pulley swap. So that's your stock size. That's the size we swapped to. And in a second here, I'm going to raise the lift, and we're going to show what it looks like. Because transmissions. That's your stock size pulling on the back. And this is the one that I blew up in attempting to break 20 miles per hour. So what I ended up discovering with these was that on these transmissions that are in the bigger bugs, they have these little plate pieces that go in the bottom of your pulley, and then they compression fit down on. It didn't hold. Which is why I made a welded one that currently has pieces of a transmission still attached to it. Also, while we were working on drag racing, we discovered that we could put dolly wheels on. And those are 30 PSI, they hold up really well. And that ended up gaining us 12 pounds worth of weight loss by swapping off the stocks. But that still didn't do us any good. So we went bigger motor. Let's jack this thing up. So let's explain how the VariDrive system works in these two machines, because the red one works differently but yet the same as the yellow one. So the idea of the VariDrive is that the belts pull against each other. So if I take this brake and I set it down and I pull this is our brake engagement, and I let go, this is up to speed. So if we watch the VariDrive pulley down in here, you can see that as I let off the brake, it pulls back, pulling this in to make the bottom pulley smaller, the top pulley bigger, and thus it makes the system go faster. And that puts it back into park so that this sits and it just spins. And this, by the way, if anybody's curious, is my brake. So I just pull that forward and it pulls the rod, and there's my brake. If I lift up the seat, you can see down in, we ended up running a 3-inch pulley on the transmission. and we'll take a look at what's in the underside. Alright, so let's talk about the bug, everybody's favorite little bug. We ended up dropping in a 22 horsepower Kohler Commander. You guys saw me do the MDI removal and everything in another video. This thing is a beast. It is a transmission ripping beast. Now in the back, I'd like to go and show you the way that this VariDrive system works. So this is where your transmission pulley normally would be, and this would come over and wrap around it, and your VariDrive actually sits back here. So as you can see right now, this is your front engine, and if I hit the clutch on that, you'll see it pulls up, and as that spins, this would get tighter, this would get bigger, causing this to spin faster. Let's take a look at the underside. So, in our first rendition of the bug, we were capable of managing to make it to about 16 miles per hour. Now, considering that a stock MTD is usually around 7, that's a pretty decent increase. But then we made some changes, and we really should have cleared 30 miles per hour. Let me show you all the changes. So if we come up here, we'll see that this is our idler arm that holds all of our tension in the back. When we ended up shrinking the rear transmission pulley, this idler arm ended up coming out too far, and it ended up causing way too much play in the system. So what we did was we sliced this off and we rolled it over, and then we put it in here so that we could put this idler where it needed to be to hold tension. Now, we shrunk the engine pulley down to a 5-inch pulley, and then we came up front and we found a giant 9-inch transaxle pulley. This is a transaxle pulley that came off of an MST 206, and we punched out the hub and then we welded it on top of a drive pulley, and it is a giant 9-inch pulley. That puts it at 6 inches bigger than the original pulley in the system. So with this, we should have cleared 30 miles per hour. But yet we didn't, and we'll figure that out in just a bit. Alright, so underneath the red one here, it basically is the same idea as the bug, but with a few different changes. Our VariDrive is centrally located here, and what we had to figure out was the spring tension of this versus the light spring tension of the VariDrive spring in the back. And you have to make sure that when this comes back, that this is able to overpower the system in order to bring the belt to the upper top of the VariDrive and expand it as far as possible. We ended up putting a 3-inch in the back. We ended up putting up front, yet again, a giant 9-inch pulley, yet again off an MST. This particular pulley came off of a MST 205. They're interchangeable. It then comes through an idler system in order to come back through, and the reason being was what we discovered was with the VariDrive, we had to be as direct as possible coming into the VariDrive. Now, yet again, mathematically, this system should have done 30 miles per hour. But there is a hidden key to taking an MTD with a VariDrive drag racing. And we put it in that box at the start of the video, if you remember right. Let's open up that box. Hundreds of dollars worth of belts blown up. 2 separate transmissions blown to smithereens. 3 weeks worth of R&D. What is the secret to making a drag racing MTD? The answer is in this box. This is a stock MTD drive belt. Remember the little VariDrive we were talking about? This is what happens to one of these belts just stock. This is what a VariDrive does just attempting to do 7 miles per hour. this is what it does to a belt when you try to go 25 miles per hour. What happens is the VariDrive system, as it goes up and down, it mathematically actually fights itself. So even though we should be able to do 30 miles per hour, the system itself slips on the VariDrive. It torques against itself on the VariDrive, and therefore it didn't matter what we did to either of these machines. No matter how big an engine pulley we put on, no matter how small of a transmission pulley was put on, we never once cleared 20 miles per hour. Every time we did, we created another lawn ornament. Thanks for supporting me. There is one more drag race this season. I'm gonna try to go and make a mystery build for it. Let's see what we can come up with.